Hello and welcome to Okawa Book Club. We're your hosts. I'm Hannah.
I'm John.
And in this podcast, we'll be discussing the books of international best-selling author, world teacher, and CEO of Happy Science, Master Ryuho Okawa.
As of June 1st, 2022, Master Ryuho Okawa has published over 3,000 titles on such topics as self-help, religion, spirituality, politics, and economic prosperity.
Yes, and today we'll be discussing The Unknown Stigma Part 3, the final of the trilogy, at least for now. I really hope it continues. This one is called The Universe. And again, for those of you who don't know about this, there's parts 1 and 2. It's a spiritual mystery novel by Master Okawa, a new series that he has put out. And it's very, very interesting. And as we mentioned in the previous podcast, it really goes from micro to macro to galactic.
Yeah.
So it just blows you out of the water, out of the universe, really. And it did not disappoint whatsoever.
Not at all. But it did surprise.
Yes.
I couldn't have possibly expected where this book went.
Yeah. So, entertaining. It was like riding a roller coaster. I think I read it in, 2 sit-downs. I'm pretty sure most people can read it in one. You don't want to put it down at all. And, yeah, it was just so interesting. So many nuggets of wisdom, hints to how this world works and how we can save it and what we should do. And you have a lot of I had a lot of mixed feelings. Is it worth saving or not? I was like, yeah, this world is so messed up. What's the point? I want to help preserve this beautiful planet. And I'm feeling I hope everyone can end up with at the end. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think that sensibility is very relatable. It's easy to become frustrated by the state of the world, especially when you're a more spiritually and religiously inclined person, and you see how sort of bad a lot of things have gotten. But I think that there is an underlying message of hope in this trilogy, and it's more than hope in a way, because it's not like hope that without instruction.
Right.
So there's guidelines and there's guidance and
yeah,
there's hope, but there's also things that we can do.
Yeah, it's very specific too.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. And in this book, Master Okawa focused a lot on spiritual training of the mind, and as kind of an underlining story, and which leads to ultimately, hopefully, saving the world, right? She goes to different planets, and it's very interesting how the different planets are and what their wisdom is. I don't want to give too much away, but you want to give some examples on what planets are what?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a challenge to discuss this book without giving too much away. And there's so much that could be given away. One planet that stands out, it was Andalusia Beta and Ursa Minor, and it was a training planet.
Whose planet was that again?
That was
R.A. Gold's.
R.A. Gold.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And R.A. Gold's been discussed in other books that Master Okawa has published, and can be compared to a cosmic Buddha or Shakyamuni in a sense, or the space soul of Shakyamuni. And so the training on this planet was very much an ascetic training where one would be subject to a very minimalist way of living and have to work with what one has and be completely self-reliant and learn gratitude. And basically, I love how the teachings and the training that went into this tied in with basically what civilization today is doing wrong. Mm-hmm. And how learning some moderation can be such a huge step globally to get us on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of the end times came from a lack of, or we'll say, just greed and more materialism, atheism, things like that. So going back to the basics of your Buddha nature type training is what can save many souls and the world ultimately. And yeah, one of the catalysts moments of her going to the different planets was when the Lord God said, you cannot win or fight only on spiritual power. You need love. So she went to the different planets as well to learn about deep love. And I felt a lot of people who are interested in spirituality, they kind of just want the spiritual power to be able to read minds and, zap people and things like that, or even curse them. But without love, it's not true power. The real essence of, I believe, spirituality and faith is to be able to save people, love people deeper. Yeah, and I think that's lacking in some of today's spiritual teachings.
I think so too. There's a lot of malevolence in a lot of spiritual teachings, I think, unfortunately, and somewhat contradictorily. Mm-hmm. And love in any set of teachings, I think, is what has to inform how we use the knowledge and wisdom or any tools that we have in life. Mm-hmm. It's our guiding compass. That it was great the way that Agnes goes through like these different forms of training, but that emphasis on love was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And incredibly relevant.
Yes. And so I feel like this book, to really understand it and enjoy it, to really squeeze out as much wisdom as possible, you have to read The Laws of Messiah, also written by Master Okawa. And he talks about, in The Laws of Messiah, the heart of the earth, chapter 4. And when you read this Laws of Messiah, you'll understand why the earth is worth saving. And in this book, The Unknown Stigma, she goes from place to place, and ultimately through her eyes and other beings' eyes, the earth is a very important place. And I think we all innately feel that because we're all earthlings so far, or at least this time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think if your perspective is, I think, like limited to an atheistic one, then it can almost feel like the earth is meaningless. It's just one little ball of matter floating in an endless universe, that whole idea. And that's why I love that it's like no matter where Agnes is going in the universe, there is an indication that is orienting her back to the earth and emphasizing the importance of the earth as a spiritual training ground that is unique to any part of the universe.
Yes.
It sort of reminded me of how, like, in a communist civilization, they don't consider an individual life as having value. The same way an atheistic perspective wouldn't consider the earth as having value on a cosmic scale. And so I think perhaps by perceiving the earth as having like a true value, having like an essence that is akin to a soul, that could help us see one another in the same way. I don't know.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Fit in there.
Yeah, that's a profound point. Yeah, and I hope people are curious as to why the earth is so important. And of course, you'll learn more of that if you read these two books. And yeah, going back to like her training, it was really interesting. I don't know if I'm giving this away, but how is she able to travel from planet to planet? That was a very interesting point. He mentions that there's no engine, no fuel to fly, like in the spaceship. It's all based on your mind. So it makes me think everyone who's like trying to research how to make a spaceship and things like that, if they don't incorporate spiritual teachings, they're not going to go anywhere. Literally not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's going to be limitations placed on what we can do, and the progress is going to be a lot slower than it would otherwise be.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like this book really, really hints or nudges people like to come on, open your world to spirituality. It's the missing factor to understand this world, and will unleash so many more possibilities. Of course, reaching space or solving problems here on Earth. Yeah, it's such an important factor that people really, really, really have to consider and implement in their daily lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe in the last talk we did about the first two books in this trilogy, I talked a little bit, about the path of individuation that Agnes is on, which really comes to a culmination in this book. But I love the emphasis upon individuation being tied in with faith and being tied in with a purpose that ultimately is something that contributes to others. And I think that that's such an important principle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the missing link.
Yeah.
In a lot of people's lives. Yeah. Another interesting point that I thought was he gives a lot of hints on what mindset to have to protect your mind from different space people. I think we all know about abduction and things like that, or even if it isn't an actual abduction, there are many people on Earth who come from different planets originally, and they have their tendencies on Earth, as you will read in other of Master Okawa's books. He talks about the Pleiadians, he talks about Vegans, and basically using the art of mind reflecting to protect yourself. And if you know like their tendencies, then you can really protect yourself. And I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
I never really thought of that.
Yeah, it's a really powerful practical teaching.
Yeah.
And I like, part of me is like, maybe that could be even be used with just people you're dealing with, and,
Yes.
you know, that might have a negative impact on you normally, you know,
Yeah.
use that mind reflecting power. And yeah.
Yeah. For me, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also gives a hint, like when Father God says, "What did you learn?" And she answered, "I learned the importance of studying and training. I need to study Buddha's truth to give teachings to people. And it's important to have a lifestyle that will always serve as a role model for other people. I also understand that physical training is a key to heightening my mental energy." So, yeah, all throughout the book, he gives teachings and hints to like improve yourself, but as you said, to tie into not only for yourself but for the world and have that kind of faith. It really goes beyond love, or it is true love to be able to care for not only others but the entire world.
Yeah, and I think like the path of training outlined, it sets a pattern that could be followed in a way. And maybe our individual lives, where we might not travel to different planets and so forth within this lifetime, although who knows. But on this lifetime, on Earth, there is a basis for the different teachings that Agnes is learning that we can learn from in Master Okawa's teachings. Mm-hmm. And I think that having that sort of path outlined in that way can be something very useful, especially for someone if they're feeling overwhelmed or just lost and not sure about direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny book also.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very entertaining altogether.
Yeah, there's a good sense of humor throughout it, and I think that even that's like a teaching that like it's not all solemn and serious on this path. You have to still be human.
Right. And also it's like, yes, life is precious, but life also goes on. And what does it mean to have life? And it's not like finite to this Earth only. Yeah, it's naive to think that planet Earth is the only planet and we're the only living beings in the entire universe. Yeah, it's just like gives you a whole new perspective and almost be more willing to live and more willing to die at the same time. And again, it's like very contradictory, but entering the middle path to life.
Yeah, I mean, having something that's meaningful enough to both live and die for, I think. And that's something we should all kind of strive for, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. It was certainly a great read, and we really hope that all of you can enjoy this trilogy series. You can find this book, The Unknown Stigma Part 3, paperback version on Amazon.com.
And the hardcover versions for The Unknown Stigma 1, 2, and 3 will be available in bookstores on October 1st, November 1st, and December 1st for the 3 books respectively.
Thank you for joining, and please tune in again next time.